Good afternoon, everyone. Thanking for joining Encore Palm Beach County for our monthly Zoom call. This is an exciting call today. We have Karl Kryczynski with us, and Karl has an exciting second act that he has designed for himself, and we're anxious to hear so much more about it. And I'm still letting some people in, so just bear with me for 1 second. And okay. Well, Karl, I'm going to start by letting you tell us a little bit about your background, what you did for 37 plus years in your corporate career, and then we'll talk about how you got to where you are today. So, Karl, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Christine. It's a pleasure. Well, I basically worked in IT for most of my career. I had a way of actually pre-starting that career. I have to thank my mom for that. Back in the 1970s, when not many high schools had any kind of computer training program, my mom saw that one of the schools in the area that I could transfer to had a 3-year program in computer training that taught you programming. And back in the day, it was key punch because everything was on punch cards and big mainframe computers. So I had a bit of a head start even when I graduated high school with IT. So for me to go into that career after that was very easy. And I think the first job that I had really with working with computers was with American Express. And that was back in the 70s as well. And I worked with them for around 10 years. And then I transferred over to ADT. And that's what you're referring to, my 37-year career with ADT, which ended happily on a very happy note. We're in 2022. Yeah. So I've been retired for a little over a year now.
Great, great. And I know when we had talked, you told me about how you didn't intend to go into IT and that it just became something that was a natural thing to do because you did have that experience in high school. So so kudos to your mom. She was ahead of her time.
She definitely was, you know. And then honestly, it was an education in data processing and IT because I got to see how everything changed over the years from computers being the size of homes down to, you know, now what we have in our hands, which probably has more processing power in our phones than what those original mainframe computers ever had.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I know you experienced a lot of changes in those 37 years with ADT as well as, you know, the computer industry itself. Tell us a little bit more about some of the shifts that you had lived through with ADT.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, anybody that's in IT knows this, that it's a constant life learning process, that things change all the time, whether it's the hardware, whether it's the software, and you have to be very flexible and you have to be willing to learn and adapt. So that over the years has not only, I think, kept my brain very active, but it also kept my interest. Because honestly, if I had to do the same thing for 37 years, you know, I probably wouldn't be here anymore. So it's nice that it kept everything kind of interesting for me. And I was always going to training classes and I was always learning something new. So that really kept my interest in the career.
And the company itself went through a lot of changes while you were there too, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, there were a lot of management changes. The company was bought, it was sold. I mean, it went public. I think twice while I was, you know, working there. So yeah, there are a lot of internal changes as well that you had to deal with. Yeah.
So how did you adapt so easily to all that change? Because I think that's one of the biggest issues that a lot of people have is that they can't deal well with change. How did you adapt?
You know, I think maybe a lot of it has to do with my personality. I'm very easygoing, and I try to just deal with what happens. You know, you have to deal with what happens, especially at work, you know, because you're getting a paycheck. Outside of that, you know, other life experience, it might be a little bit different. But with work, I was always, you know, open to the change. because the alternative would be, maybe go look for another job or go look for a different position or something like that. But I was really enjoying what I was doing. So I was just kind of happy to kind of go with the flow, so to speak.
And I think you hit on a key point right there, is that you need to be open to change, because change is constant. It's the only constant we have. So,
right?
Yeah, so you do need to be able to adapt and be flexible. And from everything that you had told me about all the changes you dealt with, you definitely have mastered that. So,
yeah.
So, you also mentioned that you're a continuous learner. So tell the folks here, what is it about you that makes you want to learn all the time, always trying to learn new things? And where does that come from?
I think it has a lot to do with just curiosity and to see how things work or how things improve. And a lot of those changes were kind of forced upon you, especially in IT. You didn't really have a choice because the software upgrade was coming, whether you liked it or not.
Right.
The same thing with your phones. Your phones update all the time. So there's a little bit of a learning process there. Now we have YouTube. You could literally go onto YouTube and Google anything that you want to learn, and there's going to be a ton of videos out there. Where, back when I was with ADT and starting out with them, it was more of going through a manual and learning from there, or actually going to, a training class. So, all those things really helped me learn and change and adapt. And I guess it was just part of the industry and part of my DNA.
That's very interesting, because so many people get stuck in a career or a job that they're really not content with. Mm-hmm. And even though there are changes, if they don't adapt, they're not happy where they're at.
Right.
So what would you suggest, ways that you would suggest to overcome that? Obviously, like you said, it's in your DNA, but did you work with other people that had issues dealing with all of those changes?
Well, there were some people there that were a little resistant to change, and I tried to sit down with them one-on-one and just maybe help them with learning how some of this new stuff worked, and just deal with one step at a time. If you can get one piece of it, have somebody else learn that, then it's just a simple matter of going on to the next part of the next part of the next part. So if you look at a problem or anything like that as a whole, it can be, kind of frightening at times for people, because you think, oh my God, there's so much there. But if you manage it by pieces, that makes it so much easier to digest, and to learn it.
Right. And that's great advice. It goes back to that, how do you eat an elephant? A bite at a time. A bite at a time.
I like that.
So that's great advice. That's awesome advice. And I know you said that you did take a bit of a sabbatical at one point. Tell us about that.
Yeah. At one point at ADT, when there was all that, one of those changes in the upper management, I think we were bought out by a British gentleman. And he was rolling us into his company, and they had a big meeting, and all of IT was there. And they said, we have a great opportunity for you. We're outsourcing all of IT. And of course, that meant, okay, well, a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs. And at that point in time, I was very fortunate. I was not one of the people that lost their jobs. They actually took me on. But after a while, this was in the 80s, there was a lot of corporate buyouts. So at the time, I was outsourced. After a while, it was one company bought another company, bought another company. I was still, at the time, it was still working at ADT, but the name on the paycheck changed constantly. So at a certain point, I guess they said, okay, well, your contract's going to end now. But luckily, written into my contract, they said they had to give me an annual, a year's salary, so to speak. So I was able to take a year sabbatical, get full pay, and not have to work. And I said to myself, am I going to look for a job, or am I going to be able to enjoy my time off? And I've been working for a lot of years at that point. And I said, you know what? I will probably never get this opportunity ever again until I retire, to be able to take a year off and really enjoy it. And I did. I mean, I really had a great time. I was living in Florida at the time. And I just, went to the beach. I rode my bike. I went out, had fun with friends when they could come join me. And it was a great year off.
That's great. But did it give you a taste of what your retirement would look like?
A little bit, I think so. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. But also, thankfully, after that year was up, things had changed at ADT again, and I had changed. I didn't really just sit on my laurels. It was a time when the internet was just starting up, and I wanted to learn how to code web pages. So I bought myself some software. I bought a copy of Dreamweaver, which is sort of an industry standard, and I learned how to code web pages. And I did a few web pages for friends of mine that had businesses. And I went back to ADT, and then they rehired me, and I worked on the company's intranet site when I went back to work for them.
From everything you're saying, you're really supporting the idea that you need to be continuous learner, adapt to change, and it sounds like that is really the ticket to why you're successful now. Do you feel that all of that background has really supported you into creating something new now?
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. Because the learning process continues even with the new career, and being that type of person and being able to adapt. I think that's helped me now in this new phase of my life.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And I know you transitioned from what was at one time called a traditional career into a fulfilling retirement. So was that an easy segue for you, or did it take some time for you to develop that? What do I do next?
Well, when I first retired, I was also just like that. When I had that year sabbatical, I was like, great, I don't have to do anything, and I was really enjoying that. And after a year passed, I was getting a little bored. I was like, okay, well, sitting around at home is great. And I sort of had a little bit of that already, maybe not total retirement, but during COVID, I worked from home for 2 years. So I was really used to being at home and cooking all my meals and all of that. So that sort of gave me a little bit of a taste of being at home for retirement. But honestly, I was still tied to my computer and to ADT and still working and going on to a lot of Zoom meetings with them. But I think after a year, I got a little bored, and I was sort of chatting with some friends of mine that were in the travel industry that had been doing this and had worked with Cruise Planners, which is the franchise that I eventually purchased. And they all gave me sort of a warm, fuzzy feeling about the company. So I had a little hesitation at first, being that I love to travel. I mean, I was always the planner of like travel for my friends when I went with them, but I wasn't really a professional, so to speak. I was not a real, a travel advisor. So they all gave me, really good advice about what to do and, how to go about going into this new career. I didn't just jump into it. I really talked to a whole lot of people.
Well, when you were planning your retirement from ADT, did you consider that you would start a new career, or did you think you were just going to take some time?
Not at all. Yeah, no, not at all. This sort of happened over that year that I, kind of, well, I can't say I did nothing, because I did a lot of travel. I think between retirement from when they started cruising again, I went on something like 9 or 10 cruises. So a lot of those were because of COVID. I had a lot of trips that were canceled. So every time they canceled a cruise, they could either refund me or give me $125 in, cruise credit. for a future cruise. So I took the 125% and I just, put those towards different cruises once they started cruising again. So like I said, it was a year off, but it wasn't a year of doing nothing. It was a lot of
Doing
travel.
nothing, right, right.
Yeah.
But did you ever anticipate while you were still working what your retirement might look like?
I really just thought it would be just doing nothing, just, enjoying life and, going out on my bike and go to the movies and, having a nice lunch here and there. But yeah, no, I never really envisioned another career after retiring.
And so what excites you now about having a whole new career?
Well, what excites me is that it's something that I love to do. So in that respect, they always say, if you work at what you love, it's not really work,
Right,
right?
right.
So this is really something that I love to do. And I get to help other people really plan their vacations and plan their trips and plan their bucket lists. So to me, that's exciting. I really enjoy doing that and helping others.
Do you see a lot of people who are traveling just to hit their bucket items?
There are a lot of people out there doing that now. And then there's a lot of people out there now, it's actually called revenge travel because of COVID. And there were so many years, I mean, you could not go anywhere that people, I mean, the cruise industry right now is slammed. I mean, it's crazy how difficult it is now to even almost just get a cabin on some of these ships.
Wow, wow. I
Yeah.
noticed that too with some of the groups online for Italy and different
Hmm.
countries, how they were all just inundated this last
Hmm.
year because it was
Oh
like
yeah.
everybody said, okay, let's do it now.
Let's go. Exactly. We've been cooped up at home for too long. Let's go travel. They pretty much saved all their money because they didn't go anywhere. So now they have the money and they have the time.
Right,
So
right.
yeah,
Let's do it. Let's
let's
do
do
it.
it. Yeah.
Do you find a lot of people, retirees, doing it, or people that are just looking
Mhm.
that they have the travel bug, or are
It's
they
any age. Yeah. Yeah.
any
No,
age?
I mean, yeah, because most of the people that I've been booking travel for are not retired. They're all still working. There might be one or two that are retired, but the majority are younger people that are still working. Yeah.
So I know one of the key points that you and I talked about was unleashing your potential and creating the life you've always wanted. And you did tell me how your customer service and travel skills are in your DNA. So explain
Mhm.
that.
Well, basically, loving to travel. I mean, I think the first trip I took was when I was 15. My dad took me to Poland, and we went all over the country. And for some ungodly reason, I had the longest visa I went there with my cousin and my father. And I was left there with my Polish relatives, which spoke very little English. And I knew some Polish, but it kind of opened my eyes to traveling in a foreign country and really seeing that country from their side, and not just being, the American, but being really almost like embedded
Right.
with the people, and that really sparked my interest in travel and getting to try to know a place, and not just kind of, visiting it and then, leaving, but really, 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 really learning about the place and the people.
Right, getting immersed in the culture. I know that
Sure.
that's a big part of it. I know even when I was seeing all these people traveling to Italy this year, I said, well, a lot of people go like they're going to Disney World, and they just want to hit the high points, but they don't actually get immersed in the
Sure.
culture. And I think that's why, that saying off the beaten path is always the
Hmm.
best way to travel.
Oh
So
yeah.
you find so many amazing things. Like I mentioned about Venice, I went away from the crowd and I had the most amazing day.
That's the best thing. I did the same thing when I was in Venice. I just walked away from St. Mark's and just started wandering and getting lost. And you find the most amazing places like you said.
Yeah, and you can't get
Yeah,
lost in Venice.
exactly. Well, it's true.
It's not that big. So, what advice would you give to somebody who's preparing for retirement or looking to make a change in their life or career? I mean, you have quite an extensive background in so many areas. Like, what would you tell someone who's not sure, should I retire, what should I do, should I get a job? I know a lot of people, especially nowadays with the economy the way it is, are
Yeah,
concerned about whether or not they should continue to work after retirement.
sure,
So
sure.
what would you tell someone about that?
Well, I mean, the first thing I did before I even went to my upper management and told them I wanted to retire was I talked to my financial advisor. I said,
It's always the
okay, this is
first.
the first things first. I said money. Okay. I looked at Social Security. I says, how much am I going to get from there? How much can I actually pull from my 401k? It's like, can I actually do this? Is it financially possible? You know, because that really is going to determine really whether you can retire or not. I mean, at least in my book, you know,
Mhm.
because if I didn't have the financial ability to do it, I would probably still be working, you
Right,
know, and
right.
putting in adding money to my 401k, or I would be thinking about, you know, getting more, not just a part-time job at home, but more of a different job, maybe, you know, where I had to go somewhere, you know, and punch a clock, so to speak, you know. But luckily, I did have the resources, you know, to go on this second career of mine.
And so, this career, do you find that this is really what fulfills you now and gives you a sense of purpose?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, I really am so busy with this career, and not just from booking trips, but from also learning. Because, like I said, I mean, I'm sort of I call myself a travel advisor virgin. You know, I've only been I bought the franchise back in March, and a lot of it has to do with training. So when I first bought the franchise, we had a whole week of training at the Fort Lauderdale Convention Center that included learning their software, marketing, sales, everything that you need to what you need to learn to become a travel advisor. And then weekly, I am on at least 4 or 5 Zoom meetings, and not just from home office, not just from cruise planners, but from different travel vendors. So, like I mentioned earlier, I was just on a Zoom meeting with Celebrity Cruise Lines right before this. Yesterday, I was on a Zoom meeting with the Italian Board of Tourism,
Ooh.
and it's like wonderful. The guy is saying, "Well, you go to take this class, and the mama, she's going to show you how to make the pasta." You know, what confused me was that guy said he was from New York, and I said, "Well, that's a unique New York accent you have." So a lot of it is a lot to do with training again, which actually sort of makes me happy because you're learning from the experts. You know, these are the
Right.
people that are in the business. There are the people that were actually selling their product, and they're teaching you how to sell it, and they're giving you not only that, but they're giving you tools. They're giving you marketing tools. They're giving you images for social media. They're giving you all these things to help you along the way.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And do you have a lot of friends of yours that are retired and envy your career?
Actually, I don't. You know, it's a lot of my friends are not retired yet. A lot of them are still working, um, but they do sort of envy my career. They envy all the travel and the places that I go to all the time. They always, you know, chatting with me up on Facebook, saying, you know, they love seeing all the pictures of all the places that I'm going to or that I've been.
Nice, nice. One of the things that you said when we talked was that you mentioned you had a Rolodex. Now, explain to those who may not know.
Well, actually, it's not a real Rolodex. It's obviously it's all in my Apple contact list, my contacts. But after being working at ADT for 37 years, I've made a lot of met a lot of people, and a lot of friends. And not only from there, but on LinkedIn. LinkedIn was also another great resource that I could pull from of people that I'm connected to. So when I started adding clients into my database for this new career that I had, it was easy for me just to take out of my contact list a whole bunch of people that I've known for years and years, and add them to that. So I could just start sending them emails and things of opportunities for travel and let them know. I mean, the first thing I did in cruise planners was that you could do postcards. And the postcard was saying, hey, this is, my new retirement career. I'm venturing into the travel industry as a travel advisor. And, I'd, be more than happy to help you with your travel plans. So just to give them a heads up and then just send them weekly emails. I've had one or two people opt out, but you have to expect that. But
Right.
I've also had a lot of people that open all these emails. So that's also another good sign. There's interest in what I'm doing.
And through the years, have you found that Rolodex has been invaluable to you?
Oh, of course. Your contacts and the people that you've worked with over the years, are, I consider a lot of them friends as well. They weren't just business acquaintances. They're really a lot of very close friends because you develop relationships over all those years. I mean, honestly, when I started ADT in 1985, it was in the World Trade Center in Manhattan, and I am still friends with people that I met there.
Wow.
And we still chat on Facebook or on the phone, and it's just lovely. It really is having contacts and people that you've known for so many years.
It's interesting you say that. We talk about that a lot with Encore when people are looking for work opportunities or even volunteer opportunities. Think about who you know and people that you've
Of course.
contacted through the years.
Yeah.
And I've seen that recently myself. I've reached out to some people that I knew from basically another lifetime, and just letting them know what I'm doing and just really touching base and seeing what they're up to, because I
Sure.
think you can maintain those contacts. I mean, you never know where it's going to take you. So that's why, and I kid about the word Rolodex because I used to have one too, but
We all did.
we all did.
Yeah.
Now, if you tell that to a Gen Z, I don't know if they know what we were talking about.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know. That is funny.
But a big part of everything that you've done really was, being open to change, being adaptable, being flexible. And I think those are probably a key points that we really need to drive home for anyone that's looking to make some change in their life, is that they really need to be open to what's available to them.
Right.
People just kind of sit in a silo
Yeah.
and don't realize that opportunity is to roll
Sure.
around them. So
Yeah.
just expand on that a little bit for us.
Yeah. You have to try to look outside of your comfort zone, I think. And that's whether it's, trying a different restaurants or trying a different career or trying, maybe if you're not into art, maybe going to a museum and seeing what that's all about. But it's just kind of going out of your comfort zone, even just for a little bit. It doesn't have to be a long time commitment, but just to see what it's like and to see if it's something that you would enjoy or even adapt to. Because humans are very adaptable. We've been adapting to different things for millions of years, right? So
Right.
if you can do that just a little bit, that I think that will help you along your path of your journey for your next career in retirement.
I love that. I love that. And I'm sure you see a lot of that even with travel. People go to different places and they're trying different foods and learning different languages. And
Sure.
so to be able to adapt is really what gets us through life. I mean, there's so much that is so constantly changing. So,
Yeah.
and you're definitely an example of that. I mean, 37 years. I mean, and I remember you telling me that you started out in New York and then you said you went to Jersey. How many times did you move?
Yeah, I was fortunate. Every time they moved the corporate office, they moved me. So we went from the World Trade Center in 85, actually around 87, I think they relocated the corporate office to Parsippany, New Jersey. And I lived there for, I think, around 12 years. And then after that, that was around the time when they had outsourced IT, when I had that opportunity for the sabbatical. But that was like really before, that came after the move. So when they outsourced IT, they says, well, we have a job for you. We're going to pick you up, but it's in Boca Raton, Florida. I says, oh, well, that's not a bad place to live, right? You know, one at the time, my parents were getting older and they had a place in Green Acres in Florida for a couple of years. I says, well, it's probably a good time for me to move to Florida. So I said, yeah, sure. You know, I'll take the job in Florida. So I'm very fortunate that they relocated me every time.
Right.
So, you know, if you have to move everything in your life, you know, from New York or New Jersey to Florida, it's a pretty big expense. So I was very fortunate in that respect.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Would you say that you have found your passion and purpose?
At least for now. You never,
Now, I love it for
you know,
now.
it might change, you know, but for now, definitely, yeah, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm still learning, which is great. So I mean, it's keeping my interest.
That's wonderful. And I think you really hit on a lot of key points that we really wanted to stress about being open to change, being a continuous learner, and just being flexible. So, yeah, I mean, from everything that we've talked about, I mean, you are definitely an example for that. So, so kudos to you. I mean,
Why, thank
you've
you.
done a marvelous transition in life. So, where is your next adventure?
My next adventure is in let's see, it's Thanksgiving. I'm going to be on a 2-week cruise on Holland America, and it's actually a back-to-back cruise. There are 2 7-day cruises that I won't be getting off the ship. One is going to the Eastern Caribbean, and one is going to the Western Caribbean. So
Wow.
I always find that for Thanksgiving I don't have much to do. So I'd much rather be on a cruise ship and have them cook the turkey.
And you just came back from Alaska, didn't you?
I did. I was in Alaska in September, and I did a lot of traveling this year. The year began in South America and Antarctica, and we started. The cruise was a 22-day cruise that started before the Christmas holidays. We started in Buenos Aires, and the cruise ship sailed south around the southern part of South America. We couldn't go to the Falkland Islands because of weather. You know, there was always problems with that. But then we spent 5 days sailing in Antarctica. Actually, spent New Year's Eve in Antarctica with the penguins celebrating. And then we sailed up the other side of South America on the Chile side, and we did the Chilean fjords and saw more penguins and had a lot of wine, and then ended up in Santiago. But the most amazing part of that trip, besides being in Antarctica, which was totally out of this world, was when I landed in Buenos Aires. It was the day after they won the World Cup.
Oh.
And the entire city was just vibrating with excitement. And everybody seemed to be off of work.
What was that, work?
So yeah, my hotel was okay. It was all right, but I mean, some of the people that I chatted with that were on the same cruise said they went to have dinner in their really nice high-end Marriott or whatever they were at, and they had 2 choices for dinner of 2 sandwiches. That was it. Yeah,
So
so
you really managed to create a lifestyle that seems to fit your personality, fits your DNA, and you're very blessed to be able to do that. You really
of course. And honestly, all those experiences help me sell travel and experiences to other people, right? So if I've experienced it, it makes it so much easier for me to talk about, you know, how this trip might affect them or how they might like it. And I'm very fortunate that a lot of the other travel partners offer these type of travels to travel advisors just so they can experience it and they could sell better, you know? So
Right.
I'm going on another trip in January on MSC Cruise Lines, which is also, it's like a travel advisor rate, they call it, you know? So it's very inexpensive and it allows me to experience their cruise line.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Did you ever anticipate that your life redesign would look like this?
No. Not at all. No, not at all.
But
Yeah.
yet, when you look back and from some of the things we talked about, you've been preparing for this your whole life.
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of always knew that I would travel, you know, to some extent, you know, but I never realized how I would be embedded within the travel industry as well, you know, and that's a good thing, you know. I think, you know, I spoke with a gentleman and he says, you know what, you never retire. You know what? It's like, you know, to keep your life interesting and to keep yourself going, you should really always be doing something, you know? And I kind of sort of agree with that, you know? You should always really have maybe not a career like I did with ADT, but something that you enjoy doing, you know? And if you could make a little profit or some money off of it, then even better. But it doesn't always have to be that, you know? It could be just something that you really enjoy doing, whether it's volunteering or helping people or whatever it is, you know. It's something that also should be part of your retirement.
You actually just closed with the mission of Encore.
Yeah, well, see, wow, I have a new job.
That's what we're about. That is exactly what we're about. This has been great, Karl. Is there any last comments you'd like to make before we open for questions?
Well, no, you know, I used to have a saying that I put on my meetings at ADT, and it was always said, when in doubt, eat. So I've changed that now to when in doubt, travel.
Travel.
So you know what? If you don't know what to do next, just, you know, take a trip and go somewhere. Whether even if it's just, you know, a road trip in Florida, you know, just do something.
That's beautiful, because I think when we open and expand our horizons, so many things show up for us.
Of course.
And definitely. And one of the other things that you said is, you know, when we were talking about your background, is never neglect your wisdom and experience. And that's a big part of what Encore is about as well, because we don't realize that our previous life and everything we have done is really just building blocks towards where we are now. So,
oh, of course.
So
yeah, I mean, you know,
is a lot.
Being in IT and digital marketing and working on the web and all that has helped me a lot, even with cruise planners, because part of what they give you is a website. And even though they sort of make it easy for you, there were so many people that when they went to the training, the week training at the convention center, were struggling with the website of how to update it, how to change it. For me, it was a no-brainer. I mean, because I've done so many different websites, and I basically just knew exactly, you know, how they were, you know, having you update it. And it was just, they were trying to make it easy. And for me, it was easy, but like I said, for other people, it wasn't. So my whole background really came through there.
All of our life experiences, we find at some stage come to use. So definitely. Well, this has been great. Let's open it up and see if anyone has any questions or comments.
Sure.
For Karl, please feel free to unmute yourself. Anyone? Rosemary, I know you always like to add something.
Well, I don't want to be perceived as a person who loves to talk, but I always have questions because, as Karl said, one of the key things, and he said so many things in his talk that really resonated with me, Karl. And thank you for coming on. And Karl, by the way, is a former neighbor of mine, and I can testify to the fact that he is always cheerful and kind of laid back, which I think is very helpful in working with people who can get uptight about their travel arrangements, right, Karl?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So many of the things that he said about being open to change staying open to the possibilities in life around you, the willingness to learn something new. These are things that not everybody has. We meet a lot of people who are looking for new work or volunteer opportunities, but they're not as willing to learn something new, put that effort in. I was on a call with a fellow called Ken Dichtwald recently, who is a big name in the field of aging, and he is a consultant to major corporations on services selling to the over 50 market. And he has a talk entitled Radical Curiosity. I think that curiosity is the thing that is the key to coping with change. And I just want to say, Karl, that love of travel began early when your father took you to Poland and you had an experience. It reminded me of two things. One, at 5 o'clock this morning, I took my son to Palm Beach Airport for a flight to Japan, where he'll be for the next 6 months with a new job. And his love of travel began early. When he was 12, I took him and my mother-in-law on a 3-week driving trip through England, Scotland, and Wales. And he's been traveling ever since. We used to have a sign on the refrigerator door that said, "See the world before you leave it." And he took me up on it and has been going ever since.
Well, that's great, though.
You talked also about the transferability of your skills in IT to your work today. And sometimes people have a hard time seeing how skills from previous work are transferable to something new. They can't visualize that and sometimes need help talking with a person about, what you did here can be useful here and that kind of thing. But the question I have for you is, you talked about purchasing a franchise, which is that's a form of entrepreneurship that some people go into after retirement, but there's a risk with purchasing a franchise, isn't there? And it's a cost. Do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. Well, like I said, I did a lot of research before purchasing this particular franchise. I had some friends that were in the business already, okay, but they had also really been in the travel business for years before they actually purchased the franchise. And then I had some mutual friends that also had purchased cruise planners franchises. So I made sure that I spoke to all of them and to talk about the positives, the negatives, the average monthly costs of what it would it be. I mean, when I purchased it, they were having a sale. Okay, so it was several $1,000s off of their normal purchase price, which I sort of wanted to take advantage of if I was going to go into this business, which I did. But there are things that you have to realize with a franchise, that there are continual kind of ongoing costs. That even when I do sell a cruise or a vacation, there is a franchise fee that they take. They take a small percentage of my commission. It's not a lot, but that's just part of the franchise. But what I feel like I get back from it is all of the training opportunities that they give me. And it's constant coaching. They have coaches that are with you for the whole life of your career. So when I first started, I was sort of onboarding, so to speak. So they had an onboarding coach. Now that I finished that and I got my business set up and I did all the financial things I need to do to get a business started, which I didn't really know any of that, which they helped me with. I'm on to my next coach, which is they call it CP New Stars. So I'm now just trying to get my business plan together. I'm giving myself goals. I said, well, for the first year, I don't want to stress myself. I have friends that sell millions of dollars in travel a year. Okay, but like I said, they have the contacts, they have the people that buy travel from them all the time. Because I just gonna give myself a limit of, let's say, $50,000. The first year, I'd like to sell $50,000 of travel, and I'm actually almost there already. So, and that's just using my Rolodex, like, using the people that I know. And another person that I just had a big sale with, I met on the Antarctica cruise this, past Christmas and New Year's. And it was even before I bought the franchise. And I was just chatting with them on the cruise saying, I'm thinking of doing this. And they says, well, if you do buy that business, we're going to book travel with you. And they did, and they booked actually a really nice trip with me. So, I'm sort of on my way. I think there are pluses and minuses to a franchise, but you kind of have to weigh those out to see, is the end result going to be beneficial to you? And I thought that it would be.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rosemary.
Sorry, it's so wordy.
No, it was perfect.
Anyone else have any questions for Karl?
Do you have anything in the chat?
I see Sal. Yeah, I put in my URL to my website in case people want to sign up for travel. You could contact me. My phone number's there. My email is there. You could sign up for weekly travel deals. And if you give me your address, then you'll also get a beautiful 4-color brochure. They would send that out like maybe twice a year. I'm just about to send one out soon.
Okay, Sal, did you have a question, comment?
Hey, Karl, nice to meet you. Thank you for your time today. Hey, Christine, this is for you.
Thank you.
Thumbs up, keep the thumbs up. I will say a couple of things that you pointed on most of the time here in this session was a purpose, and finding your purpose and living with your purpose and through your purpose. But I can go beyond that. And sometimes the word is fulfillment. And this fulfillment is really encapsulating what that purpose is. You can have a purpose, but if you don't feel fulfilled, you're halfway there. So I just wanted to throw that in there. The other thing I wanted to say was about the Rolodex. I really wish we can go back. I had an awesome one. It was so big, and it is a rotary, right?
Oh, yeah.
It had a plastic. It had a plastic cover.
I have one more, Sal, for you. I also had a day timer. I don't know if you ever knew what
that was. Oh, of course.
Remember day timers?
Well, the Rolodex was the day timer as well, right? They came out in all different colors and fancy.
Yeah.
But the Rolodex, there's something to say about actually touching those little cards that you wrote the person's name on, or the color ink, and you can actually smell that card that you in an index fashion you can make. And then when you look at the handwriting that you used, other things come up in memory, like you can remember like where you were that day.
That's true.
All this tangible stuff is missing today.
Yeah. You know what I have now? It's so funny. I obviously I have business cards, but I also have this other plastic card called a dot. I'm not sure if you know what this is.
Yes.
But it's basically, I think it's maybe like an NCF chip or something, but you basically hold it to the back of somebody's phone, and it just transfers your contact information into their contact list automatically.
Oh,
so I don't even have to carry a business card with me anymore. It's just this little plastic card. You just tap it. And of course I have QR codes, I have those as well. Everybody uses those to be able to get people to fill out information and forms and stuff.
Well, you have a great website. And I just came on this call late because I was on a call with a 20-year client and friend, and all we did was talk about cruises and cruising. And how we missed the cruise and we had to cancel the cruise. And then I signed on here and I had no idea. The first words that came out were cruises. I was like, wow. I just got off the phone talking about cruises. I kid you not.
That's so funny.
All right.
Well, now you know who to call.
Yeah,
and it's a great website. I'm looking at it. It's a great website. So yes, keep you in mind. Thank you.
And honestly,
Thank you.
that website is basically Cruise Planners, does almost all of that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Do you-
matter. It works.
Do
Oh
you
yeah,
book,
no, of
do,
course.
do you book any other kinds of travel or just cruises? Is
It's
that
everything. Yeah, no, it's what they call fit travel, fully independent travel, book tours. There's the fully what do they call those? The resorts down like in Jamaica and the Dominican Republic, where the all-inclusive resorts, whether it's for honeymoons or for families, Walt Disney vacations,
Oh, okay.
anything.
So everything.
Absolutely everything, yes. I think
Everything.
Cruise Planners, the franchise, the business, they started with cruising initially, and then they spread out. And basically, they are one of the largest sellers of travel in the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this was great information, Karl. Thank you so much. You're a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge and experience. And we're thrilled that you spent your time with us today and shared it with Encore. So thank you so very much. And we will be sending you a copy of the recording. So
Okay.
do it as you please. So
It's been a pleasure chatting with you again, Christine.
Likewise, likewise. Thank you. And thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. Have a great Wednesday.
All right,
Thank
take care.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.